I'd say one of my earliest role models was my riding teacher. So like quite a lot of young girls, I took up riding when I was about 6, something I wanted to do. And I had the same riding teacher from when I was 6 to when I was about 15. And what was really cool about her, she was just so constant. It didn't matter what was going on in her life. It was the same sort of mood from one week to the next week. And I really admired that sort of resilience that she showed. And it just gave me a very strong female role model outside of my family. Yeah, various different times I've had both mentors and sponsors. I can remember some time back I had a difficult situation with a boss, and my sponsor was instrumental there in helping bring other people into an understanding of that situation and to help resolve it for me. In later years, sponsorship is more about visibility within the organisation, and I would say I've had a number of formal and informal sponsors that have helped me achieve that. The reality of this is that the pivotal moment was that the receptionist knew my name when I came in for the interview. And she seemed very friendly and very warm. And I had a couple of job offers on the table at the time, and that was what tripped it for me, was that I felt welcomed. So that's how I picked my career in insurance and my career with Allians. I think some of the most important decisions that you make as a leader is around prioritisation. What do you choose to do? What do you choose not to do? And what's the order around that? Because you always want to move things forward, but quite often there can be competing priorities. I think that's one of the key things. And I think secondly, as a leader, your job is also to make the decisions around the key talent that you have in your organisation, how you're going to develop them, and who gets the positions that you might have on offer. So I think, making the business sustainable for the future is also, your responsibility. Don't have too many new employees directly reporting to me, but I think, onboarding is really important. I think a new employee should understand the culture and the ethics of the organisation in which they're working, and what behaviours are encouraged, and likewise also what behaviours are not tolerated. And I think those are sort of really the key sort of orientations that I would give somebody in order to help them on board. I think when you're making that transition from a staff member to a leader, I think it's really important that you take on board any advice that you can get. If your company has training programs or some sort of training assistant, to take advantage of those. Maybe also to buddy up with somebody that may be 6 months or 9 months further down the road in terms of having taken on a leadership position, just so that you've got a couple of places where you can really share your experience and get input over any difficulties that you might receive. And then secondary to that would be, I would probably say after about a year, maybe do something like a 360 if you have those available to you, so that you can really get some direct and honest feedback, 2 ways from the staff to you, so that can help you also develop. I've done a number of 360s during the course of my career, and I found them very invaluable to give me real focus areas to work on and to improve over the next year. Talk to other people. There won't be, if you talk to enough people, everybody will have been through a similar scenario that you may be facing. You're probably going to get a lot more out of that than out of a book. And don't be frightened to approach other people for their input. Generally, people do want to help and certainly want people to get on in their organisations, and even outside their organisations, make use of your networks and talk to other people. I think when you're trying to bring a new team member into an established management team, there is obviously an element around the skills, but there's also got to be a lot around the attitude and how well they're going to fit in to an existing management team. And what you want to be doing is constantly improving that management team in a way that it, not just the individuals, but collectively, that they will work better together. So I look for people that bring the right set of behaviours and attitudes into that team. I also look in my senior leadership team for individuals who I think will go on to other roles, because it's important for me that the senior leadership team in my organisation is not static and that there's a growth element to it. So that's one of my other considerations. I think you need to like people. I think leaders should have a degree of empathy, should understand the impact on the people that they lead of the changes that they're looking to make, because you're always trying to make changes. Nothing stays the same. So I think having a liking for people and that empathy dimension, I think, is really, really key. Generally, for the last 10 years, I've constantly had some sort of mentor. Some have been more formal than others. Sometimes when you have a catch-up with a senior leader in your organisation, you might not realise that that's really a mentoring opportunity that you're getting there, and you should make use of it accordingly. In terms of the traits that I'm looking for, I certainly want somebody that gives me their direct view on how I'm perceived. I think that's really important, that you have somebody else that can give you the sort of transparent view. You have your own perception, but how are you perceived by others? And that can help me, work on some of those issues. I think also in terms of a mentor, sometimes it's also good to have somebody that's going to give you a challenging viewpoint. You don't want to have a yes person to be your mentor. You want somebody that's going to give you a different viewpoint. Not as such formally, but I have lots of them informally. I think whenever you mentor somebody who's perhaps younger or more junior to you, it's always a win-win. It's never one-way traffic. You always find out something else about a different area of the business or something else that's going on. And I think it's really key as a senior leader to have a multi-tiered approach to your networking within your organisation and outside of the organisation. So I do my best to catch up with lots of different people in the company, lots of different levels, because their different perspectives, enabled me to build a much wider and rounder view for myself of what's going on. So even from the very first day I started, one of my mantras in my life was to learn something new every day. And that hasn't changed in the last 30 years. So every day I like to come out of work feeling that I've learned something new. Now, it could be something technical, it could be something soft skills, it could be something general knowledge, but I've always had that goal to walk out of work every night feeling that I have progressed a little bit more that day or developed a little bit more that day, and I go home knowing a little bit more than I did the day before. So that's been my sort of personal thing. And if I get in a role where I feel that I'm not having that learning ability, that's been the signal for me to change roles and to look for something else within the organisation.